Good evening. So here I am on the 7th of September 2019, and one can certainly feel the difference in the temperature. It's meant to go down tonight to about 7 degrees C, which is around 44 degrees Fahrenheit. But yes, certainly one can feel it, and it's, an autumnal feeling. So there we go. But I think it's going to warm up again, in 2 weeks or something like that. So I've been doing a little bit of work here in the garden. There's lots to do at the moment, and it's all to do with allocation of time and things like that. But made a good start today on getting the patch ready for autumn and winter. I've got a few things to put in, so what I thought I'd do is just show you the patch, and we can have a little chat, and we can talk about some of the stuff that I'm going to hopefully be getting up to. Right, so the majority of you will be well acquainted with this patch. So I use this for growing vegetables, but still quite a few things in there. But you may remember the spinach. Well, been eating that quite intensively, if that's the correct term, and not much of that left. So the spinach plants, what's left of them anyway, as you can see down here, are going to be coming up, and I'm going to be composting those. So the potatoes, you can see that there's some potatoes left in here. I've cut the tops of the actual potato plants away just for ease of storage, really. So there we go, got one more there, we got one more there, and there they are, variety Desiree. You may remember the potato reveal video I did, I think it was about 2 weeks ago, something like that. A very good crop, actually, considering how dry the weather was, and or has been. And I didn't bother feeding them, I just grew them in garden soil, so very happy. And I did indeed have some chips again tonight. That's one reason I grew Desiree potatoes, because they make very nice chips indeed. So here I've got a squash plant. This is a patty pan squash. It was underneath all the, other things. It never really made much. I'm going to leave it in there, in case the weather warms up a bit, and can indeed get some late patty pan squashes. Why not? But yeah, let's take a look at the kale. So I set the kale late spring out here. I brought it on originally in windowsill propagators, and then when it was ready, I transplanted it out here. So let's have a look. So I keep it covered here to avoid the cabbage white butterflies, of which there weren't, or didn't seem to be, that many this year. I don't know if any of you out there experienced the same thing. One managed to get through, or a cabbage white butterfly of some sort did manage to get in, because there was some caterpillars on. But excuse the weeds, I'll just move that from there like that. But yeah, so that's recovered very well. I think some of it did get a little bit caterpillared, but not that much, and was eating quite a lot of these earlier in the season, and the crop did go down, but certainly bounced back. Gave it about 3 weeks of not eating it, but lovely, isn't it? It looks really lovely, and that will stay in there all of winter. So I do tell people this when you're growing stuff. It's nice to make sure that you've got some hardy stuff in. It's very, very good, to be able to have your own food to eat in the winter as well. And kale is a great plant for that. Right, so the runner beans, how are they doing? So, yep, we've got plenty of small ones on there still, crops waiting to come. I do come out here and pick them. Honestly speaking, a lot of them don't make it to the old cooking area, because I eat a lot of them raw when I'm out here, and I really do like eating a lot of raw vegetables. I'm no nutritionist, but I do hear that raw vegetables in certain cases can be better for you, but that's for you to do your own research on and make up your own decisions on. Okay, so the Victor Winter squash really is starting to go a nice orange colour now. I'm really letting this one go ripe after I had to pick the other one early because the vine broke. But look at that. The other squash that I picked a few weeks ago, the video's on the channel, and I've given that to someone to, you know, make some dish out of it. I think some sort of curry. I mean, because if I cooked it, all I would do is simply roast it, because I'm no cook. But whatever lovely dish one of these is turned into, I'll be getting some of it. And I think that's a very nice thing to do, really, in regards to community. Yeah, because I think of, you know, bits and bobs and all that. And yes, that's right. But basically, you know, we're all good at different things, and I'm not the best cook in the world. You know, I can cook the basics, boil up a few vegetables, and you know, make some chips and stuff. But you know, sometimes I grow stuff that you can make some really sort of lovely dishes out of, and I don't have the knowledge to do that. I could get it if I invested the time to learn, but I'd rather grow the stuff. So sometimes I give stuff away to people, and they make lovely stuff out of it, and you know, I end up getting a resulting sort of some of the resulting produce, and that's brilliant. The resulting dish, rather. So yeah, down here, you know, we've got the old lovely bit of beetroot, variety Boltardi. Got the tops as well, of which I eat. Might pick some of those. That one's not made much, but these ones are very good. Quite happy with those. And here as well, you know, you've seen these, you know, the patty pan squashes. I picked one of these today and cooked that up and had that for dinner. You know, with other things as well, but it was really lovely. They really are a great thing to grow. And I've spoken about this before. There's evidence to suggest that, well, I've read that there is evidence to suggest that these were eaten by the Native Americans, and they've got records of these being eaten in Europe, used in Europe, since the 1600s, and in the UK since the early 1900s. So a bit of history attached to that, and that's one thing I really like. And unlike a lot of the other squashes that you've seen me grow, these don't take up a massive amount of space. And as you know, I grew one in a container as well, and that produced well. So next year I'm going to really be growing a lot more of these, because I really like the taste and the fact that I've, you know, grown them in a container, so I know they grow in containers, and they, you know, they're just a really nice tasting squash with a bit of history attached, a bit of novelty as well. So next year, Bennings green tint squash all around. So for those of you who may remember the Patty Pan Bennings green tint squashes that I was growing in containers, this is the container I grew the plant in. It's not even a big container, so imagine the crop if I grew them in a larger container. So that's what I intend to do next year. Right, so here now, this is a tayberry plant. Excuse the weeds, again I'm going to be sorting that out, but what they do is they fruit on the previous year's growth. So if you see all this is growth from this year. So what I'm going to do is cut away all of last year's growth, i.e. this sort of thing, because that's what it fruited on this year. So as they fruit on the previous year's growth, what you do is at the end of the season you're in, you cut away the previous year's growth, if you understand my meaning. And what I do is I just simply do that, and I use these canes and I stick these in, and then I just put it against the fence here, and then leave it and await the lovely crop which should come next year. You may remember just how many tayberries came off of this, and they're such a great thing to grow because they come before the strawberries and the raspberries. So, you know, just a very, very nice plant to grow with, you know, early cropping as well. So that is brilliant. Okay, so I'm very impressed with this cucumber. This is variety Market More, and when I cleared this today, there was a cucumber plant in there which I knew was in there, and I've had about 3, 4, maybe even 5 cucumbers off of it. But I noticed this. I don't know if it came from that plant or another plant, but I can't exactly remember, but it was indeed in amongst there, and I picked it and it looks great, and it's a good size variety Market More cucumber, highly recommended. I've grown them a few years now. As I look into the polytunnel here, this is one of the areas for development, if one could describe it like that. So you can see what I've got. So you may remember I had the runner beans in these tubs here. So what I've done is I've taken the runner beans out and I've composted them in there. That's where they're going to stay. Runner bean plants are great to compost because they contain a lot of nitrogen. So there we are. So I've got the compost here, which I'm probably going to be reusing. More of that on another video. The yuzu is here. That's going to be going in the polytunnel. The one fruit that was on there fell off, but that doesn't bother me. I'd rather the plant put its energy into establishing, honestly. Right, now, so down here, what have we got? So we've got the grapevine cuttings, Lakemont seedless, muscat blah, and I've got some currant bush cuttings, red currants, white currants and black currants that I took, so they've done well. But what I'm thinking about doing is maybe building a raised bed, sort of like here or something like that, or putting up another little polytunnel. Now, nothing is 100% set in stone of what I'm going to do, but I really am trying to just think about the best thing to do. So as I look at the vegetable patch, one thing I have thought about doing is maybe keeping half of it and having another, putting up another polytunnel. So I'm not 100% sure if I'm going to do it, nor if it's the right thing to do, because this vegetable patch is incredibly productive. And I do love having the vegetables growing here, but I would like another polytunnel if possible. Now, space is not, I don't have copious amounts of space, and I am incredibly grateful indeed for the space that I do have. But it's not as if I've got, a 3/4 acre garden that I can put loads of polytunnels in. That's just not the case. So what I'm doing is having to be very considered. But, if I could find a polytunnel that maybe came sort of from this edge of the raised bed, there, you see, sort of here and there, and took up that sort of area, I would be, that would be worthy of consideration. But the right time of year is coming up for me to start thinking about what I'm going to do and how to go ahead with the project. Now, I was given this tub here. I don't know what was in it, but someone was using it, to store soil in. But it looks like it's some giant paint tub or something like that. So it was going to be thrown away, but me being myself, I asked for it and they said, yeah, take it. So it's a pretty decent sized tub. Now, I'm thinking of what to put in this. I'm thinking about I could drill some holes in the bottom. Whoops. I thought about putting a tree in it of some sort. I've thought about even putting, a grapevine in it. I thought all sorts of things, or setting it with like little vegetable plants or something like that. But either way, it is a decent sized container. Now, I know it's not the most aesthetic container in the universe, but at the same time, it was for free. It's aiding with recycling because it's using something that was going to otherwise be chucked, and it's big, it's large. I really could put something in there. So what I'm thinking about doing is I'm going to ask you peeps, what would you like me to put in this container? I estimate it's about 50 or 60 litres, something like that. So it's up to you what I put in there. So comments down below, please, what you would like to see in there. So the ideas I've had are a tree, which I'm going to be getting, not yet, probably after Christmas. What else? A grapevine, or some vegetables. You let me know, but I want it to be a food producing plant, alright? So I hope you can see this alright in here. I'm just trying to get the lighting up, but it doesn't seem to want to work. But so, right, now, grapes. I'm starting to lose the light a little bit here, but I think you can still see it. Now, these grapes are actually ready for eating. And I've got to be honest, they are absolutely beautiful. Now, this is variety Autumn Royal. Now, I'm going to leave them on a little bit longer to really let them get sweet, okay? But they're really delicious. And with another week on there, even another 2 weeks, they could be really, really sweet. But at the moment, they're perfectly edible. And Autumn Royal is a Californian variety, and it said if you're going to grow them in the UK, you want to grow them in a polytunnel or a greenhouse. Now, I've said this before, but I think the importance of this is very important. Now, it's growing in this polytunnel, which has got this sort of green cover, okay? And a few people have said that it restricts the light a little bit. So there we go, into the polytunnel. And also, this polytunnel is not in full sunlight for a fair bit of the day. But I've managed to produce a good crop of grapes on a young grapevine in a polytunnel that is not in an ideal place, okay? And a Californian variety of grape, which the weather, in California is, they generally get far longer and hotter summers than we get, but yet the crop here is produced well. So, for those of you out there who want to have a go at growing grapes, right, but you don't have an ideal place, hopefully this will sort of, I don't know, stoke your engine, so to speak, to think that, just because your place is not ideal, that you don't have to necessarily not do it. Of course, a south-facing wall for other varieties, or in the case of this one, a polytunnel or greenhouse in a sunny position day long would be brilliant. But if you don't have that, then you don't have it. So, and I haven't even, much to my own detriment, I haven't even cut the leaves away to let more of the sun get in, but yet the crop is still good. So I'm very happy with how that's turned out. And grapes fruit off of the previous year's growth. So if you take this, for instance, it's not a good example. This here is this year's growth. You see that? It's a nice green colour there. And what they do the following year is they put little spurs out, tendrils if you will, whatever, and that's what you will get your fruit on. So next year I'm predicting that this vine is going to be absolutely covered with grapes hanging from the ceiling, the roof, the top of this polytunnel. And if that happens, that will just be fantastic. And this vine, I put it in last dormant season, not the dormant season just gone, the one before that, and it put out loads of growth last year in its first year here, hence the lovely bunches of grapes that formed. So there we go. Now the peach tree, that's doing what it's doing, so I had a great crop off of that. And down here the tea plant looks like it's getting bigger every single day, so that's doing well as well. So I'm not sure if I'm going to do it tomorrow, but certainly over the next week or so I want to be getting more of these sort of containers here full of vegetables set like this. There's spinach, Swiss chard, I've got some over here, spinach, Swiss chard and kale sort of seedlings, and a bit of beetroot left, all waiting in the wings, if you will, ready to be planted out so that I can have a crop of veggies through the winter period. So what I want to do is have containers of spinach, kale and chard in here, quite a few of them, and that'll be particularly good when these tomato plants go, because I have more space in here and I can really have a lovely winter crop of nutrient dense, cold hardy vegetables, and I think that's a good thing for people to do. So this squash here is really rocking and rolling. I could easily pick that now, but I'm just going to leave that on the plant and let it get as big as it can. It is said that with the patty pan squashes you should harvest them when they're about, I think, 2 to 4 inches, but now at this time of year this plant's not going to be putting out any more crop really, and I'd just like to see how big this will get. We shall see. Right, so I'm starting to lose the light now, so yeah, that's the weekly update. So just got to sort that bed out. I've got plenty to do here, plenty of projects to think about, and if people are watching this and they're thinking about starting their own garden, now is the time of year to really start making inroads into it, because getting prepared for next season, really. I mean, I know it doesn't really seem worth doing that because next season is a while away, but if you think about it, it's only 6 months until March. So that's, in my experience, March is when the garden season really starts moving, or can start moving. So there we go. So if you like my work, please feel free to like, share and subscribe. No, can't see it. And I will see you in the next video. Thank you for watching. Got to try and get a good clip now for the thumbnail. There we go. See you later.